All right, Miss Jolie Dawn, welcome back to the Feminine Frequency.
Hello, love.
It's only been like 5 years since you were last on.
I know, 2020. So much life has happened since
Yeah.
2020.
Yeah, you were one of my first guests, and how cool is it that we now get to weave in this timeline and like really get to share the wisdom and the codes that you have been just deepening and continuing to expand on in your own life and also in your business and with your clients. So, not only are you a dear friend of mine, but I've also been a student of yours and I've really gotten to experience your medicine and your magic. So I'm excited for our listeners to tune into your frequency today.
Me too. So
Yeah.
stoked to be here. Fun to be in Austin, in the town that I'm living. I was going to say hometown, but it wasn't. I didn't grow up here, but it's sweet to be in my town and have you in Austin.
Yeah, I also think of that too when I think about like Asheville, because I do think of it as my hometown because I live there. And sometimes I want to say that too. I'm
I
like,
know.
it's my hometown. I was like, not really. Like San Diego's technically my hometown.
Where we originally met. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we originally met in like a whole different lifetime before we were both really on this personal development path. And, I've really loved and felt so inspired by watching your journey and specifically your journey with abundance and with business and money, and not just for yourself, but the way that you empower other women to know what's possible for them and to really reprogram their entire frequency and their entire, reality when it comes to their relationship with money and feeling like they can actually create the abundance they desire. So let's dive into like the abundance codes. Like, this is such a loaded conversation specifically for women. And we're in a really cool time right now where things are really up leveling and changing. But why don't you kind of rewind back and share with us a little bit about your money story and how you've reprogrammed your reality when it comes to money?
Thanks, Amy.
Yeah.
Thanks for seeing me.
Yeah.
Yes, it's been a big journey, and I really care a lot about helping others get free with money and think about it differently and create it differently because I've seen what a difference it's made in my life. And, I grew up around scarcity like a lot of us did. Many of us, whether it was in our intimate family, whether it was in our culture, whether it was in our community, or just the collective consciousness, I really believed that money and abundance and affluence was for a group of people that I just didn't belong to. And my mom especially reaffirmed that belief. We would be walking and, we lived in the far outskirts of San Diego out in the country, or we'd go to the beach in La Jolla, and it was always, wouldn't it be nice to be those people? And I was really reinforced about how I wasn't a part of the class of having. And while my parents were educated and had good jobs and were consistent earners, they came from parents of the Great Depression, and that scarcity consciousness was really living in them. And they both struggled with addiction my entire childhood. And I watched them specifically really lose themselves to gambling for decades, at least over a decade. That really impacted me as a kid because to have an addiction with gambling means you're out of the home. And I grew up in a town with an Indian reservation just 20 minutes away, and there was a huge Vegas-like casino on that Indian reservation. So that was my parents' hobby. It was their social life. It was their free time. It was a lot of my childhood was my parents at the casino. And the odds are never in your favor. It's not an investment play. It's not like your money appreciates over time. Even if you get that intermittent winning, the reality is there was always a dark hole of loss in our family. And that was to the casino. And we went without a lot of the time, and there was mismanagement of funds, and I grew up in this feast or famine. And my dad was an attorney. He would close a case. There would be this extra, and then there would be nothing. And so this inconsistency with money was created, and my parents never built savings accounts. So it was always just living for the right now. And then in the economic collapse of 2007, 2008, My dad was way over leveraged and got into a position really bad, like multi 7 figures of debt position between the business and properties. And he looked at his financial reality. He looked at his 2 kids trying to make it in college and his family and made a very permanent decision to end his life. And it was after losing a large sum of money. And so my programming is money is life or death. It is worthy of ending the whole. I mean, what is more precious than human life, your life? And that can be gone in an instant because money was at stake. I mean, that's some deep programming. I think I'll be unpacking that programming for the rest of my time on the planet. And money is the reason why my parents are fighting, and money is the reason why my parents are gone. And there was so much conversation and so much tension around money in my childhood. And in my 20s, having my spiritual awakening, finding meditation, finding leadership development programs, and being in a relationship that we were really focused on becoming our best selves together, I realized I'm going to perpetuate this story. I'm going to continue to have scarcity. Money's going to continue to be dramatic, intense, and feast or famine until I have a new consciousness. And what I know now, as you know, I have a business that's 12 years old. I've created millions of dollars of revenue. I've helped a lot of people. I've freed myself. I've built a real estate portfolio. Whatever that thing, financial freedom is, where you feel in control of your money, I've achieved that. And I think the underlying thread beneath all of this was I had to be worthy of having. I found inside of myself, I am a woman that feels worthy of freeing herself from this, of playing a big game in life, of providing value in the marketplace, of living in the home I want to live in, taking myself on the trips I want to go on. And that worthiness piece was the biggest energetic work for me.
Thank you so much for really bringing us to parts of your experience when you were younger, and just really even just imagining like yourself as a little girl and that feast or famine and the, lack of, parents being present in your life, and how so much of your journey and really childhood trauma was linked to money, which I feel like is exactly why you're like the perfect person to be teaching this work, because you've seen it all. And so many women have just so many different layers of their own story tied to money. Like you said, there's the societal program, there's our family dynamics, there's like our experiences when we're younger. Like I remember when I was younger that I wasn't taught about money. Like most people weren't taught about money. I grew up in a really, a very supportive home, a very supportive family, and my dad's an entrepreneur. And, like I never really learned about money. And I just remember like feeling so much shame because I felt irresponsible with money, and I didn't know how to manage my money, and I didn't know how to make money. And I remember being at an ATM multiple times with my debit card from like my allowance that my parents gave, and like overdrafting my account. And I'm like, this is so stupid. Like this is a math game. Like this is not that hard. But I was like, oh, there's something wrong with me. Like I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. Right. Yeah. And I know so many women feel that way when it comes to money. So, when it comes for what you teach in money and business, where would you invite women to start when it comes to creating a more abundant mindset?
Yeah. Okay. There's so much to this. It's a beautiful question. So the first is, what is the vision of your life? What is the vision? For me, I could see that if I didn't change behavior and I didn't make new action, that I would repeat the past. And this was the story that was part of my family, and I would just continue to create it. And I started getting curious. What would it take to be a version of me I've never been before? And what would it take to be a version of prosperity and abundance that I haven't commonly been around? Like, what is that? I'm doing this right now with my personal trainer. I'm like, I am so committed to putting muscle on my body before pregnancy. My partner and I are very seriously talking about timeline for baby, and I want to be fit chick going into my pregnancy. And I've never been an athletic woman. I've never seriously put time and energy into building muscle. And I've been having this conversation with my trainers, like, I am setting out to be a version of myself at 35 years old that I have never been before. Mm-hmm. And I have a vision of my body and the strength of my body and the tone of my body being a version it's never been before. And I believe that it's possible. So same thing with anything we're achieving in life. Do you have a vision of your prosperous future? I would ask this to anybody listening. Mm-hmm. Do you have a vision of going on that trip to Thailand? And I'm thinking of like my Pinterest boards of when I've made it financially, it would look like this. And there's villas and there's bathtubs and there's just like this sense of peace. Talk about being in a feminine frequency, the peace of knowing that I'm supported. Do I have a vision of that? One. And do I believe that's possible for me? Mm. And if I can get behind that, then what consistent action am I taking? And so the way that I've impacted women with money and provided unbelievable results in my own area and corner of the world and the internet is, what are you going to provide of value to the world that's uniquely yours? And then my way in has been, how are you going to generate the interest and the leads around that so that's successful for you? And we're going to really look at, yes, we need the mindset. Yes, we need the energetics. I firmly believe in the formula be, do, have. It is the beingness. It is the believing. It is the possibility that informs the doing. And that consistent doing will eventually, by the power of the law of physics, inform the having. And yeah, the first place to start is, can I be a version of myself that my mother wasn't, or that my grandmother wasn't, or that no matter how old I am, no matter how dense the stories are, no matter how much I believe that I'll never break the cycle of scarcity, it will always find me again, do I believe that I can free myself from this story? Is that a thing that I believe is possible? And then if so, if I can fully get behind that, in what ways can I create? Can I attract? Can I provide value in a way that feels aligned with me, that feels fun for me, that would consistently and predictably bring money into my life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so the opposite of what we've been taught. It's like you need to work harder and do more in order to make more money. Mm-hmm. What you're talking about is first embodying the identity of a woman who is prosperous.
Yeah.
And embodying a woman who believes in her self-worth. Yeah. And then from that place, what would I create in the world? From that place, what's possible for me? How would that woman move throughout the world? What choices would she make? How would she show up to her life? Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And that's the embodiment piece that we're talking about. It's like you can do a lot of things, but if deep down underneath you don't believe that you're worthy, or you're stuck in this narrative around scarcity, like you can do all the things, but it doesn't matter. And I know you do a great job at combining like the being and then having a strategy. Yeah. I think that's something that a lot of women struggle with, is the strategy piece, and having both of those and having guidance in that. Like you've taught hundreds, thousands of women around about prosperity, and you've had so many women go through your programs. Like you have formulas that work.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about for women who maybe already have a business and they want to scale their business. I mean, you have, scaled a business to $500,000 a year and done that repeatedly. So what does it really take to get there, to create that financial freedom that you're talking about?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so all the women in business, like you and me, we lived through something in life and then we wanted to bring it to others, and we're living in a time that's really unprecedented. You can have an idea for a professional service in a way that you want to help another, and you can be a coach and a consultant and a healer and a facilitator and create that and go into the free market and name your price. There is no limit on what you can create. What a blessing. What a massive blessing. And I would hope everybody would know that our industry of coaching and healing and facilitating is bigger than ever, more alive than ever. There's room for anybody who wants to come and excel in this industry. And I think there's a few things to know, which is, how are you creating real value? Mm-hmm. Real value in a way that is transformative for people, because mediocre, kind of dabbling, those are the people that are struggling in the industry. But when you find your niche and your message and your community, and it's moving through you with conviction, there's so much abundance to be made for everybody. And so when it comes to scaling a business, we get to really look at where are our clients coming from? And I started asking this question about 12 years ago. Like, whoa, if I could really understand the lead generation game in a more feminine approach, because we've got paid advertising and the hustle and the forcing it and the web, all of the things that maybe a more masculine business model would be, but how could we be looking at this from a different way? And which is why I've always gone for organic traffic and collaborations and affiliates. And when it comes to scaling the business, the question comes, how can I get more people who are interested in my product to be aware of my product and then be compelled to choose that? And so the thing and the strategy that I see is working right now, and you're doing it in your own way in podcasting, is how are we intentionally collaborating? And so my way in is online events are hotter than ever, and we must lead with generosity. So how are we showcasing our work in a way that people get to feel us and get to know us? And building trust takes longer than we think it's going to. So what are those repetitive touch points? We can do it on social media. We could do it through podcasting. We can do it through an online event. But for me, 7 years ago, I created the Dare to Prosper Challenge. And I was like, would my friends who I have rapport with share about this thing that I'm creating? I hosted an event. I featured speakers. I had my first 500 attendees. I was like, whoa, that's powerful. And now we have had over 20,000 women come through the Dare to Prosper Challenge. That was with no paid traffic. That was with a alternate, very feminine economy, which is like, hey, Amy, this is what I'm up to. This is the conviction on my heart to be a part of a new era of the way that women are seeing and recognizing their worth around money. Is this something you could get behind? And oh, by the way, how can I get behind your work? So we're sharing our communities, and then we have a very intentional product suite after that. Then what's the next step? And for me, you've seen me position this for years, slow sales. How can we slow it down? How can we lead with generosity first? It's really easy to look at the analogy of dating. It's like, you're going on your first date. Are you propositioning marriage on the first date? Some people do. That works out for them. But for the most part, it's like, let's build this connection. Let's build this trust. Let's get to know each other. And I think that's the piece that people underestimate, is how really the value in the positioning of what it takes for another person to see a mentor, to receive value from them, and choose them as the person they want to invest in. Like, I've seen you, like, I just walked into this podcast studio and massive girl crush for the woman that you were just interviewing. And I've seen you collaborate with the industry leaders and the incredible tens of thousands of downloads you've gotten from this podcast and who you've collaborated with. It's amazing. And if you were paying for paid advertising for every one of the leads that's ever listened to your podcast, that would be an exorbitant amount of money. But what you're in, the game you're in on, is what I call audience pooling. You're connecting with people that have built audiences, and you're in this shared economy of how can we support each other in what we're creating and share our messages. So that to me is the basis of scale, and where we're at right now is, where can you collaborate? Where can you showcase your work? Where can you be top of mind and be really convicted in the message that you are speaking as it comes through you?
Yeah, you're speaking my language.
Yeah.
I really, really love these pieces around generosity, around collaboration, around like really providing value and being of service. Like, that's the feminine, right? It really is. And I've so felt that from you ever since, we've met and since I've been in your world, is like that you really freaking care. Like, you really care, and you really, yes, of course you want to create financial freedom, but you don't just want to do that for yourself. You want to teach other women how to do that. And it's really special and powerful. And so I love that this just opens up the perspective of different models. And I really want to highlight something that you shared, is like, it does take a lot for someone to build trust with a mentor. I mean, there's all different types of buyers, right? There's some people who's going to like listen to one podcast episode and fall in love with my work and then reach out and want to work with me. More rare. But for most people, it really is relationship building and really seeing like, oh, I've been in this person's orbit and I've been engaging with their work and I'm seeing changes in my life, or I feel different around this person and I feel good in their community and like I feel inspired to go deeper.
Yeah.
Right. And I love this analogy with with a relationship. I think that we need to take time to get to know people, including mentors. And I've done this. I've jumped in too soon with mentors and in relationships. And then it's like, okay, I haven't really taken that time to get to know them. And I believe that we all have our own soul clients. Like I really believe that there's enough for everyone. And I believe that the people who resonate with my message may be different to people who resonate with your message. And there's also crossover, right? But I feel like there also can be scarcity in the realm of like, oh, there's already too many people doing what I want to do. There's already too many coaches out there. There's not enough clients. Like that's a form of scarcity, right? Or I'm too far behind. Like, oh, there's already so many podcasts out there, or so many people who have started YouTube channels. So like if I had said that when I started this podcast 5 years ago, because there were a lot of people podcasting 5 years ago. Now, like the podcast industry is super saturated. Everyone and their mom has a podcast.
Yep.
But like, because I was like, no, like this is on my heart. This is the way that I feel like I can genuinely connect with people and provide value. And like, for me, podcasting really hits home because this was back when I was more into like health and nutrition, and I wanted to learn about all of these things. It was like I looked to podcasts and I started to feel so empowered, and I got so much good, beautiful like information and so much value just from listening to people's podcasts, right? And so I love that, I get to offer that value to people and then bring other people's, like we all have our unique genius. And so I get to bring you on and bring your unique genius around money and abundance and business. And it's so cool that we get to like, share each other's wisdom and gifts. Yeah. Yeah. So money is like a big aspect of what you teach with women. Are there specific blocks that you see that are common for women around money, or wounds with money that you feel would be helpful to like name for our listeners, for them to start to see, I wonder if that's showing up for me?
Yes. Yeah, we can track quite a few of these, and I can track them in myself. What I say is the prosperity journey is a lifelong practice, like fitness is a lifelong practice. And so just because this is something that I teach and I've mastered in certain ways, like I'm putting myself through it all the time. I'm constantly looking at my beliefs, and I'll speak to one for myself and then I'll speak to some common ones. A few years ago, I realized that I was really extended in my business. A lot of people needed me. Because the care in my heart, I was making those high $750,000 years. And what I didn't have prosperity in was my time. And I remember going on a summer trip to Glastonbury, which is like the land of the feminine. It is the land of the goddess. Have you been out there?
I haven't.
Oh my
I've heard
gosh.
amazing things.
It's like spring water blessings. And it was just, it's so darling. And I felt a deep connection to the land. And one of my former clients, her mother-in-law is a channel out there. And she's in her 70s and she's been channeling for 50 years. And I got to sit with her. And this message came through, which wasn't the message I wanted. I came in and I was like, how do I scale my business more? I want more output from my life. And it was a deep ask from my feminine body for less. And I implemented and really sat with, I am at the absolute edge of my belief system of what I believe that I can create in proportion to how much I'm working. And we believe that it's got to be hard. There's a formula and it requires this kind of pain and sacrifice. And if it's not that, then I can't achieve it. And that's not really the formula. We don't have to work so hard at it. We don't have to suffer in it. And I really challenged every part of my business and where my time was going. And my goal was, can I achieve this level of revenue and work a fraction of it? And I call last year, 2024, being my most prosperous year ever because I cleared $500,000 by working on average about 12 hours a week. And that was with also 3 months completely off. June and July off and December off. And so I'm like, if I could achieve that, that was entirely based on a belief that I could remove myself and have this type of leadership, which is delegation, and also hit these high numbers. But I had to believe in myself that I could rise to my business, hold it down, receive at this level while also being absolutely abundant and prosperous in my time. And those two things were conflicting before. So I would say the big beliefs around money that I've tracked, oh my gosh, I want it, but I believe I can't have it. I have shame that I'm not further, like you were touching on so beautifully. It's like, why start now? It's too late. This kind of feeling like everybody's already done it. But the thing is, there's a lot of podcasts because there's a huge demand for podcasts. There's a lot of coaches because there's a huge demand for healing. And like, I believe what you believe, there's your soul clients are out there. And when you open that channel to your divinity, to your soul calling, to your message within you, to your life experience, and you let that flow through your heart, people can feel it. That is the currency of our time. Your feminine heart matters. People want your love. They want to feel your care. And so I would say the biggest belief to challenge is the belief I'm not needed and I can't provide value. And like, why now? And so everybody listening gets to feel that one. Like, what do you feel like you missed the boat on? And like I've really seeing this in my own fitness journey right now. It's just like, can I really do something I've never done before at 35? Yes, you can. That's the gift of being human in this life. It's part of the rules of the game. You can be any version of yourself at any time that you choose. That's part of the setup here. That's part of the fun of being here. That's part of the deal in incarnating is all possibilities are available to you. You can create what you desire to create, and you're the only one that can do that for yourself. Nobody's going to give you that permission. You can hear the inspiration from Amy. You can see what Amy's created and be wildly impressed and inspired. You can see what I've created, but no one can possibly get into your psyche and your energy body and fill it with possibility. That is a internal job. That is a non-outsourceable job. And so I would say moving past the beliefs around scarcity is every day programming the mantra, I am worthy of this, I believe in this, I see this reality for me, and tuning into podcasts like Feminine Frequency where you're hearing from women who've done the dang thing. Fill your psyche with the sensation of possibility, and then there'll be less room for the limiting beliefs to run when there's so much possibility in your field.
Yeah, our environment is huge, and our environment doesn't just include our physical space and our house. It includes like, what are we filling our mind with? Who are we surrounding ourselves by? And if you're surrounding yourselves with people who have done what you want to do, and or like people who are on a similar journey of transforming their beliefs, like it changes what you see as possible. We have mirror neurons that show us, oh, if she can do it, I can do it too. It is possible. There's evidence that it's possible, right? Yeah. So potent. And that piece around like, it has to be hard. Like if the key to making millions of dollars was you just have to work harder, like we can see there's people who have multiple jobs who work their asses off and they are not, you know, the people who are the wealthiest in the world. So we just really need to look at like unraveling and looking like, is that true? Is that true that I just need to work harder? And for a lot of women, working harder actually leads to burnout. It leads to feeling disconnected from themselves. It leads from not listening to their bodies. And that's not a state of prosperity and abundance. Like that's a state of depletion. And making money, it does require effort. Like we're not going to sugarcoat that it doesn't require effort. Like you've shown up to your business and you've, you know, put in tons of hours and lots of energy. But the idea that in order to make more money, I have to work harder, like we want to question that.
Yep, because that form that will run out. If the only thing we can do to scale is put more of our life force into it, that's a limited resource. And I was seeing that as a limited resource, and I was preparing moving out of the maiden mentality and into mother mentality, oh my gosh, I need to value my time in a way that to many people, I would appear as though Jolie Dawn values her time tremendously. But for me, every single hour that I'm behind the computer is taking me away from dating and tending to my body and all these things that very much matter. I'm a deeply feminine woman at my core. Mm-hmm. I can receive a lot from life. I love my creative flow. I'm a projector in human design. I can spend a lot of time in free time without getting bored. Mm-hmm. And so respecting that in my business and setting up a business that is sustainable. You know, you and I have been in this game a very long time. I admire you, Amy, so much for the femininity that you've brought into your business. I consider you one of our industry leaders for how the feminine approach to service and following your intuition and coming up with programs because you're genuinely inspired, not because it's the formulaic next step. And we need that. I look at you and I'm like, you are a delicious, juicy, alive, in love woman who is also buying herself a home, who is also making her money, who is also tending to her man. And we're in an era where it's like women, you know, everyone's talking about, we've graduated from the boss babe era. Everyone's like kind of throwing the boss babe era like under the bus.
It's so funny
right
seeing the trends.
It's so funny. We're like, we used to be the boss babe era. Now we're like, kill the boss babe.
Now we're the soft girl era.
It is really such an incredible pendulum swing. I was screenshotting just in the last couple days everybody's marketing copy that was like, we're out of the boss babe era. Like, that was not good for us. I'm like, okay, I feel protective of the boss babe era because boss babe era actually did a lot for my life.
Yeah.
And we are waking up to like, oh, we have more feminine needs and we can't totally emulate the men. But, you know, here is a beautiful example of a woman, the Feminine Frequency podcast, and how many hundreds of conversations you've had about like, hey, women, we get to be women, even in a modern day world where everything seems to be more lusciously priced and we get to create more and we get to be a dual income household. Like, we still get to be women and we still get to be in our sensual flow. And we still get to show up on Instagram and like be an example of a woman loving her body and being in her body and in her sensual nature. And so I feel the younger one in me that wouldn't have believed that was possible to create a business like that. And I think the compliment that I get, that is one of my favorite compliments, is like, Jolie, you balance the masculine and the feminine so well, because that wasn't a natural way of being. That was incredibly practiced and incredibly deliberate because I owed that to my feminine. Because if in the pursuit of success and money and impact and being this thing for the world, I'm depleted, that's not actually success. I'm not actually winning. What am I actually winning?
Yeah. I see a lot of women redefining success and redefining prosperity. And I want to come back to what you shared earlier is like, what is your vision? What does prosperity mean to you? What does that look like? It's going to look different for different people. I shared this in another conversation earlier that like my version of prosperity isn't making millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Like, I actually don't feel like I would be incredibly happy running like a massive business. And I know there's ways to do it where I could, you know, do it in alignment. And I'm just like, okay, I get to be honest. Like, that's not my vision of prosperity. My vision of prosperity is like having more time and energy to do things that I love and to spend time with my partner. And like, yes, I want to be in service and giving to my community. And like, I want to do it in a way that feels really good for me. And I'm still on my journey of that, you know, balancing. That's why I started this podcast, is because this is my work. It's like, I can easily get stuck in the masculine and I get to keep coming back to the feminine. One of the things that I love about you, Jolie, is like, you're an undercover witch. Like, you haven't even talked about like nearly even touched on any of like the witchy magic that you infuse into your work, because you don't just do typical mindset work around money. You do deep, energetic, psychic work with yourself and with your clients. And I don't see anyone else like do this work the way that you do it. So I want to really speak to that, and for you to bring like even your like, yeah, which archetype online when it comes to money right now. Like, tell us about some of the rituals and like the way that you approach money from like the deep energetic space.
I feel seen.
Yeah,
There's
I'm
something
like
about being called a witch. I'm like, oh my gosh, you get me. You get me. Yeah, I look at my business as a priestess first, energy healer first. My spiritual awakening came way before my entrepreneurial success. And I think the witch in me, she is very aware of the subtle energetic realm. And so I had this training early on in energy healing and reality creation and seeing the subtle. So big part of my spiritual awakening in my early 20s, I feel like spirit presented me with this fork in the road. It's like, be the victim to your circumstance. My father had just committed suicide. I was wrecked by that, emotionally distraught. I was daddy's little girl. My mom, her spirit left at the same time. She stayed in her body for 9 more years, but severely struggled with depression and substance abuse. And I was caretaking for 9 years. And I could see this very dark reality just came over me. It was like this dark nightmare came over my life. And the heaviness of it, what life asked me to rise to, my first response was collapse in it, was numb with alcohol, was party, definitely don't talk about what you're feeling, and just pretend it's all good. And the more I started to life, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, the teacher started appearing. This book landed in my path, which showed me transcendental meditation. And when I started to remember who I was at soul level, I was like, oh, we get to make a plan here. We get to make a plan. One step opened up the next. And like my first ever real offering to the world was hands-on energy healing. I got trained in this specific form of energy healing, and then I did women's circles. And so I've always been incredibly aware and attuned to the subtle and energetic realms. And when I was starting my business, I was aware, like, this is an entity that really needs me. And how am I feeding this entity separate from me with my love, with my care, with my devotion, like I'm raising a newborn baby. And then as that baby starts growing up, it's needing me less. And I think, to acknowledge the witch in me, it's the one that is very connected to the natural world around her. I am incredibly aware and well studied and well practiced on the rules of physical creation. When we incarnated, what did we agree to when we took form in this body? I think we can all agree we came from a place that's not here. We will be returning to a place that's not here. We're having this temporary human experience. And that to me is the remembrance. That to me is the awakening. I'm on a temporary journey. Life has set me up. I obviously chose the parents I chose to have a particular imprint. And now that I understand the rules of the game, which is I'm free to create whatever I want to create, and everything that I desire to create in the external is first an energy. It is energy precedes matter. It is first a consciousness within me. I need to work that. I need to work that because I'm an unlikely success. I didn't think of myself as a bright being. I was a shy, selectively mute, very timid, scared of the world, numb, distract. The person that I've created is just that, an intentional creation. Jolie Dawn, as she lives her life, was a strategy. It was sitting with myself. It was envisioning. It was asking the question, who do I want to be in this life? And genuinely caring about being an extraordinary player and giving something of value. And can I be a part of the new wave of consciousness? Can I do my part to bring more love into this reality and do good work and not just be a coach, but have exceptional results for my clients that I'm so proud of? So when you see the witch in me, it is the one that's aware of the rules of the game. It is the one that is working with the natural resource around her. And the rituals, all of these rituals, like having a money altar in my home, is coming from a very devotional place, which is holding an intention on high and asking spirit in every step of my business. I bring so much prayer into my business. I intentionally create a prayer field. This is why I don't touch my phone for the first at least hour of the morning, so I can remember who I am. Before I tap into the matrix, there's plenty to do if I open WhatsApp on my phone first thing in the morning. Before I get into that space, can I remember who I am, where I came from, what are the rules of the game? Can I be so filled with spirit and let that light lead me through the day? And to me, that's the witch.
Yes, I so see you. I see the witch in you.
Same. I see you in that too.
Yeah. And I think the word remembrance is something that really stood out to me as you were sharing, because every single woman who's listening here, like, we have this deep knowing of, this soul remembrance of why we're here and what we're capable of. And it's so easy to get stuck in the illusion and forget and to get distracted from the truth, which is that we are worthy and we are powerful creators, creatrixes in your world, and that we do have the ability to live a life of prosperity and abundance.
Yes, we do.
We
do. I think of the archetype of the witch. I mean, that word means wise woman. And the witch to me is the one that knows the magic. And that was the thing that when witches were persecuted, they're like, that is out of control. What are you connecting to? And we have so much freedom to connect to the magic and remember the magic. And you want a magical life where it feels like you have the Midas touch and things are flowing in your favor and opportunities are happening around you. That is the magic you cultivate within yourself.
Yeah. And it takes devotion, like you said, to really harness that, an intention to spend time cultivating that in our practices, in our rituals, through our prayer, like, so huge. Yeah. What's one manifestation recently that you've like called into your life that you feel really inspired by?
I'm smiling ear to ear right now because I called in my beloved, my king, my counterpart. It was 4 years I was holding that prayer. 4 years, Amy. Oh my gosh, the journals that were full of asking and praying and looking at it from every direction and saying no to the almost thing and all the first dates. And oh my gosh, this man, Amy, this man, the woman that I got to fortify myself into and rise into to be able to attract a man at this caliber. And to trust him, to receive him, to create life with him. We're at the beginning of our journey. We're in our first 6 months. And we're also just incredibly clear about each other. And I can see all the work I needed to do healing with the masculine. I could see, I had a meditation where a healer was asking me to like meet his essence, and I could feel the enormity. He's so similar to your man, which is just like solid and pure and good. Like we found our good ones, Amy. And I could feel his essence. And the limiting belief is, would the man that I wanted want me? Believing that I would be good enough for my ultimate dream man, or sexy enough and pretty enough or fit enough or bright enough or feminine enough. And that was my real work of calling him in, was the man that I would want me too.
Wow. Yeah. And now you got to work through that and really like believe that for yourself. And then it's come to fruition in reality. Yeah. And you have, really, really cultivated like the woman that you are today, and the, who you be in the world and what you've created, but more so like who you are. Of course, you're a match for that. Like, Jolie, you're an extraordinary woman, and I'm so excited for you. And yeah, I love that you're really feeling met in this vision and with this partner. And yeah, it's just the beginning.
It's just the beginning. And you know what, Miss Amy, the amount of times I've thrown out Asheville as a place for us, we had we were headed to Asheville to explore that this would be the life we created together 2 days before
The hurricane.
We were meant to stay with our mutual friend, and I'm still like team Asheville. So we'll see what comes of that.
It's going to come back. I mean, the people who are there are like, this is our soul home.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm secretly hoping and just like holding the vision that Asheville's at least a part-time place where you get to come and visit and live, because it is super magical. And yeah, I'm just excited to get to meet your man too, and to get to know him. And
I know. I see a double date. I see our men really having a lot of the same values, big time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. We got to do a full friend catch up.
It's happening. Yeah.
Oh, well, my love, thank you so much for being here. And I know that you have another round of your Dare to Prosper challenge coming up so soon. And, for anyone who's been listening to this and you're like, okay, this is the type of prosperity. This is, the magic that I want to bring into my life. This is the way I want to feel with money. Then I highly, highly encourage you to join Jolie's 10-day challenge, because you will not walk out of that challenge as the same woman. It is such a powerful journey that you take women through, and thousands of women join this journey. So tell us about the Dare to Prosper challenge that we're inviting our listeners to.
You're such a generous friend. Thank you. Thank you for backing my work. Thank you for believing in it. It wouldn't be possible without people like you being willing to share. And yeah, to date, 20,000 women have been through the Dare to Prosper challenge, and it's all my magic around prosperity consciousness. We get deep into the rituals, and it's a 10-day cumulative process using the tools of hypnosis, where I guide a hypnosis field and I introduce the participants to something called the Prosperity Garden, where we start understanding and getting the principles of creation. And we get it down to the pure simplicity of what is the soil and what is the seed. And we go into this metaphor, psychic, collective, communal space as women from all over the world. We've represented over 50 countries, and we heal together. And it's always my intention to guide women into a firsthand experience to see where they are unconsciously blocking the natural flow of prosperity, because it is just that. It is natural. It is what life wants for you, to have abundance, to be in affluence. And so it's 10 days. It's intensive. It's rigorous. It's beautiful. It's big. We've had profound results, and it's totally and completely free. It is my offering. And I love making it available to everybody. Everybody gets to participate. So we are live with that. You can tune into the first day in 2024 on March 10th. And if you're listening to this recording at any time past March 10th, it's always available to download on my site, thedaretoprosperchallenge.com, so you can go through it at your own pace. But if you want to be in the live energy, the vortex with the thousands of women, that will be on March 10th, 2025.
2025. Yeah, we're in the new year.
Did I say 2024?
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it. We switched over. We're in 2025.
We're in the
March
new year.
10th, 2025. I had a feeling that slipped out of my mouth. Yep, it did.
Yeah, it's all good. We're going to include the link directly to the challenge through the show notes today. So make sure to check that out. And where else can people find you and connect with you?
I hang out, I document my life on Instagram stories, Jolie Dawn XO, and then my website, joliedawn.com.
Beautiful. We're going to link all of that. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing some of your prosperity codes. There's so much more. And yeah, the challenge, I've done it multiple times, and I have lots of clients who have been through your challenge and received so much wisdom and insight. So I'm really excited for our listeners to join you for that. And thank you for such a beautiful offering that you bring to the world.
Thank you, Amy. I adore you. I receive your generosity. I just admire you so greatly and all that you give in the world. And thank you for being a stand for feminine frequency. It is so needed. We're hungry for it. We're thirsty for it. I feel fueled by it. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you, babe.